Okay, I know what you guys are thinking. What the actual fuck are you playing today, Stix? And you know what? I do not want any sass from any of you today, okay? Because I love Naruto. Believe it.
Believe it.
Okay, well, you know what? Past tense. I used to love Naruto. You know, back when I was like a kid, maybe a teenager, I genuinely teared up a little bit when Haku turned Sasuke into a piñata.
Loser.
From laughter, maybe, but you know what? That was an incredibly emotional moment and incredibly emotional experience in the anime for me. So if you weren't already aware, today we're taking a look at a Naruto MMORPG. Yes, apparently Naruto has an MMO. Don't ask me why, but I decided that I wanted to stream it. And given the fact that there were over 400 of you watching for pretty much the entire stream, evidently all of you were at the very least intrigued. You know what else would be intriguing though? If every single one of you went and clicked that subscribe button, especially if you're interested in staying up to date with MMO news like this every day, general MMO discussions, MMO giveaways, and you know what? If you feel like I deserve it, drop a like and a comment on the video. It's a huge help for the YouTube algorithm. Now, welcome back to another episode of What on Earth Did Stix Download and Play This Time, where we sift through every MMORPG available right now in an attempt to find the best MMO in 2021. Today, we are taking a look at, well, Naruto Online. I feel as though the title itself is pretty self-explanatory. This is one of multiple different MMORPGs set in the Anime-to-MMO-verse. MMOs that were developed by taking a popular, already pre-existing anime series and well, doing this to it. Now, where do I even start with this? I guess let's just start at the beginning. I noticed that there were various different MMOs that were based on pre-existing anime series, Naruto, Bleach, Fairy Tail, One Piece. So I kind of just YOLO'd it and I went with the first one that came to mind. I had expectations, very low expectations granted, but expectations nonetheless. I'm a pretty big anime fan. I loved all of the aforementioned anime series, at least at one point in time. Man, do I hate fillers though. Those genuinely, legitimately, 100% wholeheartedly destroy my soul a little bit every single arc. So I had certain expectations. I wanted the main Naruto cast to be present. I wanted to be able to traverse the Naruto world, especially Konoha, and I wanted to be able to customize my really awesome looking female shinobi, or kunoichi. And 2 out of 3 of those requests being fulfilled were better than nothing. So this is a different type of MMO than I'm sure most of you are used to. I don't know how many of you have played browser MMOs in the past, but that is exactly what this is, a browser MMO. Although it did require me to download and play it via a client as opposed to via the browser, so I guess it isn't entirely anymore. Browser MMOs are typically a much lower quality MMO than what we're generally given in the genre. They all follow the very same formula. They're always from a top-down isometric perspective. They have copy-pasted gameplay, auto-pathing, auto-combat, and this was ultimately no different, really. On the one hand, combat wasn't really entirely automatic. Your characters would automatically engage enemies on their own, but you had direct control over your abilities. This gave you a level of interaction while in combat, which interestingly enough was like an old school turn-based JRPG. And if you guys know me, you guys know for a fact that I absolutely love, I am genuinely obsessed with not only old school JRPGs like Legend of Dragoon, like all of the Final Fantasy games, Star Ocean and Suikoden and Breath of Fire, but also newer JRPGs as well. You would navigate around the world and encounter various different shinobi. Some of these were story characters, others were just random fluff NPCs that you could fight to fill the areas a little and prevent the world from feeling too empty. The world was segregated, meaning that to move between areas, you'd go through little loading portals interconnecting everything. I went through quite a few, admittedly. Each area was fairly small and consisted of like a handful of objects or NPCs. The zones outside of Konoha, however, were larger. They had an actual mini-map and diverging pathways to provide a little bit in the way of exploration, and I can appreciate that, but at the same time, the game still felt very linear. The additional paths were merely small little off routes that would take you to something like a treasure chest or a more difficult encounter, yet it still felt very Naruto-ish. Running around Konoha was actually kind of cool. The areas felt like they were screenshotted from the anime and pasted directly into the game. I cannot begin to imagine how much fun this could have potentially been, how amazing this could have looked had it been designed from a traditional third-person perspective. Graphically, the game utilizes sprites for the characters present. They look pretty detailed, as do abilities the different characters can use, although the game definitely shows its age. I'm gonna be real here, I have seen mobile games that look substantially better than this, and they're built for little mobile devices. Now, I feel like this would have potentially done better on mobile devices as opposed to it being released on PC. This is further illustrated by the fact that I had to download an entirely separate client to play it. A client, mind you, that wouldn't resize to my actual resolution. So I had to use OBS to increase the size by roughly 175% just so the game would be visible to the extent that it is currently. Yet even taking all of this into consideration, playing through the game as an outsider and watching everything unfold, the story slowly progresses, the characters interact, it was all a little bit nostalgic. Yeah, we're given the option of choosing our elemental affinity, and while we have no further customization over our character than that, it was a little bit fun watching the anime play out with our character being partially involved. I mean, yeah, certain liberties were taken with respects to the narrative, because interjecting an extra character into any of this literally would have made things play out very different. Maybe we could have stopped Sasuke from leaving. Maybe we could have taken old Orochimaru during the Chunin exam. If you're a fan of Naruto and wanted to play a part in this story, then this is definitely going to pique your interest. Yet if you're not a fan of Naruto, then there's pretty much nothing really worth investing time into. The combat is mostly autoplay, with the only interaction from you being when and what ability to use before going on to cooldown. The narrative is loosely adapted and poorly translated, so it can seem a little bit out of place at times. The graphics don't look terrible, but they could have been just so much better, especially given the competition these days. Everything about this game felt like a poor quality mobile title, from the upgrading to the currency to the gacha style recruitment of characters. Ultimately, I only spent approximately 2 hours in this game, but having played various other types of not only mobile MMOs, but also browser MMOs, I can tell you that this feels exactly like what I've played before. At least games like Black Desert and Final Fantasy XIV and The Elder Scrolls Online all feel contrastingly different from one another. I've yet to encounter a browser MMO that felt significantly different to its competition. Is Naruto Online a bad MMO? No. Well, okay. Yeah, it's a bad MMO, but not a bad browser MMO. It's bad if you make the comparison to a full-fledged PC MMO, sure. Yet, it is about roughly what you'd expect from a browser title.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it. Yeah, all hard work's gonna be worth it. Ooh, everyone who didn't believe